Shooting it raw?
Yes. Shooting it raw. Okay, so the next photograph. Oh, okay. Hard left or hard right. I love it.
Right?
It's a portrait of you with your fiery red hair.
Yes.
Let's see. Matching lipstick, wearing
Yep.
a glitter vest shirt, or maybe this shirt is just up to the top, kind of short sleeved, very glittery.
Yes.
Very glam. Underneath is looks like a black t-shirt with glow in the dark skeleton underneath.
That's correct.
Now, go ahead, take it away.
It's ultra femme, right? I've got my gold hair barrette. I've got a feminine pose.
Yeah.
My hair is bright red. I've got some sparkles. I've got some glow.
Yeah.
And the reason being is that I'm definitely, unapologetically feminine. I think that, my main space is environmental activism, environmental advocacy. I like to stay in my lane because, you got to stay on message and all of that, but I cannot deny my experience, both as a, female small business owner in a patriarchal society and a survivor of domestic violence, right? Like I have personally had to work really, really hard to both understand and embrace really what feminine power means.
Yep.
And how it actually is not necessarily something that stands in competition to like sort of that masculine concept of power and authority and all that, but rather as an alternative.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
I have a very intense, in addition to being an author and an advocate and, all that, I have a marketing business.
Yeah.
I, pay several people's mortgages and provide health insurance and, all those things. And I do it with a management style that is very intentionally compassionate.
Okay.
That is very intentionally generous.
Yeah.
And, I have gotten feedback in the past that, you don't have to do things this way. Like you don't have to feel responsible and accountable to your employees, and all, it's, they have a job and they should be grateful for that. And, and I just don't agree. I don't agree. I have developed my own leadership perspective that is based on the power of compassion and the power of empathy.
Yeah.
And I believe strongly in the business case for running an economy that way. It makes people loyal to you and it makes people work harder for you and it makes everyone happier and more trustworthy and more trusting. And that's really kind of the way that I try to mold my local economy.
Okay. So my interview style is very self-indulgent, in which my guest speaks and I say, oh, holy shit, I can create connections to that and then see where that leads us. Okay, so I worked with 15 years, I've worked with a very successful business owner. And together we looked at what is service. I call it service network leadership because I look at what the network is. And a huge part of our argument is, and he is super successful, right? So have you heard of DHL?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So he's one of the co-founders of DHL. So as successful as you could be, I think, in business or could expect. And his thing was really, DHL is essentially a network. It's a service network. And you didn't know I was going to say this, and I didn't know you were going to say that, what you've said, but we've talked about this idea that in a service network, you have to be decent. Now, is it just a convergence? Now, we use it outside of decentralization and everything, but we say that if you are decent and if you're in a habitat where trust beats skill, your team will do better, right? Like when people trust and love and admire each other, and it's like we fight against the mentality promoted by business schools of like top-down command and control, that the jerky business sort of leader or manager, more likely, not really a leader.
Yep.
And so when you say that you very consciously present a kind of leadership, a kind of vision or tenor or tone in your team that is obviously feminine, obviously caring, empathic. So we talk about the 3 C's of competence, character, and care, right? So you have to be competent, but that's the minimum.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have character so that you're trustworthy, and you have to care. So
yeah,
how you describe your idea and approach to your business is, I am 1,000% with you on that. So I love it.
Yeah, and I can tell you that this is just something that I have learned through my direct experience.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I really used to believe, and I started off as a freelancer. Right. I got,
Okay.
I didn't have. I was just at sort of the top of my game in the technical writing, and regulatory compliance, and so okay, I'm just going to start being a mercenary instead of a company man.
Right.
And starting out alone and building a business where I know that today I cannot do what I do without the people who help me.
Sure.
It just provides an innate sense of appreciation for them. Like, yes, I've done it alone and it's awful doing it alone.
Right.
And I've encountered a lot of people who I personally believe allow their kind of perfectionism and their sense of, control and all of these things that do help you get to the top of your industry to achieve that high level of competence. But it does not facilitate collaboration, right? People they won't do it your way. They will do it their way. They have their own skills. And instead of trying to force, a round peg into a square hole, it's really a matter of communicating with people and understanding them and, seeing where the best fit is. And if there isn't a fit, then you move on mutually, understanding that, it was all good along the way, right?
Yep.
And, in terms of that top-down leadership style, I'm really, I believe that it will eventually become antiquated, only because so many people in my cohort, right?
Mm-hmm,
I'm 34,
mm-hmm.
Elder millennial, among the older millennial generation. And people in my, around me are, bailing on their high money careers. Sure. Because at this point, what's it worth, right? Yeah. Burning out 16 hours a day for a boss that yells at you is not worth the money, right? Go out and live in the middle of a county park in Hong Kong and listen to cows and love your life, right?
Compliment accepted.
Yes.
Okay. I love it. Okay, so plug your company. What's the company?
So yeah, the company is called Axiom Communications, AXIOM. We've got a couple of brands that we've been able to spun off. Again, just because I can't help myself, right? Whenever I have a new idea for a new project, I get really excited about it. And I just have to I have to manifest it into reality.
No, I love it.
So we provide legal marketing services under the brand Colorado Legal Marketing, as well as social media services under Axiom Social.
Okay.
And then technical writing and compliance, content marketing, thought leadership under Axiom Communications. And the Be Decent project is not only like the culmination of my, right, sort of like life's work, but also a proof of concept, right? I have built myself a thought leadership platform as the owner of a marketing company to show people that you can build yourself a thought leadership platform, right? It can't be inauthentic, like it must be something that really is true to you, because simply nobody can put in the time and the energy for something sustainably, right? That is not just something that speaks to them and their heart and soul. But at the same time, it's, I think, very consistent with the way that marketing is going these days, where, okay, we're inundated by information. We don't need any more information. We can find the information that we want. It's really more so about getting to know people as an individual and finding your community. My community is environmental technology, gypsy nature lovers. Okay, like that sounds like a very small niche, but there's millions of us out there.
Yeah. I love it. Well, here's what I know that in the audio, your energy is going to carry forward, but I'd like to also share with the listener that you're hopping on your chair and you're like, you're just you're radiating this sort of this energy. And that's part of it's an important part of what I want to kind of convey through the podcast and also through my work and all this stuff, is this idea that you can sit back and be an observer, or you can sort of step forward and just go for it and just be active and just So I'm going to change. I'm going to downshift a little bit, and feel free to ignore. It's not, it's not going to be a question. It's just, if there's a question, you find it and you talk about whatever you want to answer. But how you framed yourself to me was an important sort of anchor, or something that was there, was this concept of domestic violence and abuse that you went through, pushed through, survived through, had to process, and it probably took you that long time of living by yourself to kind of clearing that out.
Absolutely.
But in listening to you, there's that, and I understand that abuse and violence is super complex, because it's got the psychological side to it that can really, take your feet out from underneath you. But listening to you now, it's almost inconceivable to me that your energy and self-possession would let somebody trample over you. You don't give me that feeling.
Yeah. And what you're picking up on is empowerment, right?
Yeah,
that's the difference between then and now, is that I have discovered self-love and self-acceptance and empowerment, where, I have built not only, a brand and a presence and an actual legacy, right? If I die tomorrow, I'm going to feel good about the impact that I had on my life, my life has had on this planet. Right.
Wow.
And that's really because I had to start believing in myself at some point. All I had ever done, growing up as a good little girl, is listen to what was told to me.
Right.
Do well in school. Don't date around, right? Don't date a lot of guys, right? Be very limited in, sort of your interactions on that. Get a really good job and, stay with that company. And as sound as that advice sounds, as good as that advice sounds, it was completely wrong for me. And I followed it every step of the way, just believing that eventually it would work out. But the truth of the matter is that no, every journey is individual.
Yep.
And all you really have are the gifts that you are born with and you carry forward into this world, right? And again, reflecting on sort of the generational impact, I was a senior in high school when the housing market crashed, right? So I was graduating from high school in an economy where my friends' parents were losing their houses and everyone was moving in with the grandparents.
Wow.
I graduated college in the recession that followed, where I was living in Palm Beach County at the time. My condo was literally across the river from Mar-a-Lago. You could see the top of Mar-a-Lago from the other side. I lived on the poor side, obviously, but you could look across and see the wealth. There was over 13% unemployment in that county at that time. And there was a complete hiring freeze on all public jobs, no teachers, no waste management, nothing. And so, kind of growing up and being told that you go through school, you get a great job, you get a solid, husband, wife, partner, you have a nuclear family with 2.5 children, and then you retire with a gold watch at, 25 years.
Yeah.
That all sounded like really sound advice, but it was given to me from people who had the best intentions that had no idea how to function in the new world, that had no idea how to function in this environment presently.
Sure.
And so I had to really start believing in myself. That, people might give you advice, and as tempting as that might be to give up your own autonomy to just rely on what people say, you can't, right?
Okay.
You have to really discover the power of listening to yourself and following your own beliefs. And you know what? Nobody would ever tell me. It took me 11 days to move out of Vermont.
Okay.
It took 2 bonfires, I burned a bunch of stuff, right? Old curtains and pillows and things that I couldn't get rid of at the dump or the thrift store. And it was just a solid almost 2 weeks of just getting rid of all of my possessions. I went from a 2-bedroom with a storage unit to a Jeep, literally.
Simplifying your
life.
Yeah.
I hit the road and I started freelancing. $40 a day would be enough to pay for the campsite and dinner. And nobody would ever tell you should do that.
Sure.
Nobody would ever give you the advice of, just, light a bonfire, burn a bunch of shit that you can't get rid of and hit the road. And, that's how you're going to start your successful career. But that's what I did. So
Shooting it raw is all about being an arsonist. No, it isn't. It's all about inspiring people.
It was a permitted bonfire.
Okay, it's fine.
I got permits for it.
Let's move on to the next photograph. This is great.
Yes.
So is life really a gift? Really? Can you make every second count? That's the whole point of the podcast. So if you like what you've seen and you're inspired, because that really is my mission, then please give it a like, subscribe, and share.
Shooting it raw?
Yes, shooting it raw.